Yeah, Timmy Boy is in some hot water. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really paid much attention to this story until this. Everybody's been talking about this story with Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. Every time I hear Carmelo Anthony, I think about the former NBA player. But apparently, Tim doesn't think that Carmelo Anthony did anything wrong. And oh boy, has he stepped in it. So right here, apparently he made some comments on his show about it. Okay, here we go right here. Here's what he said on his show.
Nothing matters but this. One where he says, what is it? Nothing matters but this. He was at a school event at the wrong team's tent with a knife. He clearly chose murder than to walk away, cut and dry here. Nope, wrong. Imagine you are invited to a party at someone else's house and you are legally carrying a firearm. And then a fight breaks out and or like an altercation breaks out between you and some guy and, there's drinking involved or whatever. I'm not trying to make a one-for-one scenario. I'm trying to create a potential scenario separate from this one with similarities. You go to a party. Let's say you go to a party. And some guy starts saying stuff like, yo, man, get out of here. And you're like, I can do what I want. I was invited to the party. Verbal altercation escalates. And then the dude, you're standing there and you pull your sweater back and you've got a gun. And you put your hand up and say, don't come close to me, bro. I'm warning you right now. Do not come close. Do not take another step. Then the guy grabs your arm and makes a move. So you draw your weapon and you use it. Okay, make the argument. You have no right to defend yourself when you're being attacked by a guy. Make the argument. By all means, go ahead and do so. I ain't going to do it. I don't know the circumstances. You can argue that you're in a place you're not supposed to be. You can argue it's that guy's house, and it doesn't matter. A guy can invite you into your neighbor could be like, come on over, brother. And then if he gets physical with you, you can defend yourself. And then what? The police are going to be like, well, you were in his house. And it's like, yeah, you invited me in. It's like, the door was open.
Hey, he just did the or, by the way. Listen, he just did the or.
It's like, yeah, you invited me in. It's like, the door was open and.
So Tim has been catching hell. All right. Tim has been catching hell. And his response to him catching hell was to post this. I don't care about conservative tribal outrage. So now he's basically saying that anyone that has looked at this scenario for what it is it's just a conservative. Just conservatives, guys. You are automatically just a conservative if you're upset about this situation with Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. Now, a lot of the points that I've heard a lot of people make about this story is simply put that the media has not touched this story. The media has not talked about this story at all because the media likes to weaponize when the situation is in reverse. So if a white kid would have done this to a black kid, the media would have had 24/7 news coverage of this. 24-7. But suddenly now, because it's a black kid that killed a white kid, suddenly now the media doesn't want to talk about it. And that's your clear indication that there's no self-defense argument here at all. There's no self-defense because if there was, the media would be covering this wall to wall. But let's read the specifics right here. The victim, Austin, the suspect, who was later identified as Carmelo Anthony, was from Centennial High School and was sitting under the Memorial High School tent. Austin had told Anthony that he needed to move out from up under the team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, reached inside, and proceeded to tell Austin, touch me and see what happens. No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag. Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out what blank recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. This is not self-defense. This is not self-defense. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, so let me be clear. But I'm just using common sense. This is not self-defense. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to help. Blank advised him, not knowing Anthony's name, but stated another Memorial Track member, blank blank, was friends with Anthony and that he couldn't identify Anthony. Described Anthony as a black male, skinny with possibly a goatee, short puffy hair, wearing high school clothing. Blah, 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 blah. It was then instructed to start a crime scene. I retrieved a crime scene log from my patrol vehicle. So this is the police report.
Simply grabbing someone is not. Now, might that be an unlawful battery? Sure, I guess you could make that argument that Anthony Metcalf was committing a simple battery. Maybe not. But it certainly wasn't conduct that was likely to inflict death or serious bodily injury. And what is required for the lethal use of force in self-defense to be lawful under Texas law? Let's pull it up again. The Texas Deadly Force Self-Defense Statute. For the use of deadly force to be lawful self-defense, the defender here, Carmelo Anthony, had to reasonably believe that the deadly force was immediately necessary, attempted use of unlawful deadly force. Is there any evidence here to support the reasonable perception that Austin Metcalf was threatening unlawful deadly force upon Carmelo Anthony? If anything, there's evidence to suggest that Carmelo Anthony engaged in provocation with intent, deliberately provoking Austin Metcalf to go hands-on for the purpose of having an excuse to use the knife he knew he had in his bag upon Austin Metcalf.
I'm not emotionally invested into this story. I'm emotionally invested into how the media has dealt with it. I haven't even been paying attention to this story because I really haven't. I've looked at it, but there's been so many other things that I've been following and dealing with that I was like, I don't know what's going on with this story. But when I saw Tim Pool getting roasted, I had to jump in because, of course, I did.
Young black man fatally stabbed Austin Metcalf, also 17 years old, happened to be white. Both of them were attending a Texas high school track meet. Both the 17-year-olds were in high school, but in different high schools. Carmelo Anthony, the stabber, quickly fled the scene, discarded the knife he'd used in nearby bleachers. He was shortly captured and arrested, conceded to the stabbing immediately upon contact with police, and suggested he had killed Metcalf in self-defense. Actually kind of asked the question, pondered whether it might have been self-defense. So we have some new information now, and we can explore a little bit more of Texas law, and that's our purpose for all of us today. So as I am prone to do, I did do a couple of quick polls on this, one on Twitter. I asked, what likely verdict do you think the police report will support? Now, Carmelo Anthony has been charged with murder, obviously an unlawful killing. He's going to be claiming self-defense, a justification for that killing, which would make it not a crime. So we're looking at either murder or a justified homicide, or potentially somewhere in the middle. What might be a voluntary manslaughter? So we'll talk about all of that in the context of Texas law applied to the facts of this case. What do we got first? Murder. Texas Penal Code 9.02. It's kind of a jumbled statute. So we're going to skip this part 8 to get to the actual crime here. What does it take to have committed murder under Texas law? Well, you commit the offense of murder if you intentionally cause the death of an individual. That's one way to commit murder. Did Carmelo Anthony intentionally cause the death of Austin Metcalf? Well, he stabbed him in the chest, stabbed him in the heart with a knife. You're presumed to intend the
Seems pretty direct if you ask me.
natural consequences of your conduct. You stab someone in the heart with a knife, you know you're likely to kill him, so you're...
Yeah, because I mean, the intent would be, and again, I am a random retard that is on the internet, and for some reason, I have a few people watching me. So my opinion really doesn't mean any damn thing, okay? But I do try to approach things from a level of common sense. And in this situation, first of all, I probably would not have put myself in either one of these situations to begin with because people are crazy. But I was, young and dumb at one point in time. So who knows? I've been in my share of fights when I was growing up, so I get it. But in any altercation that I was in school, I never feared that I was going to be in a situation where I could be stabbed or shot. If I was ever in a physical altercation, it was like, we're going to fight, or we're going to do, like, not like this guy has a fucking knife or a gun. It's never been like that. That's never been the case. I would say in my life, I probably was in 10 or 15 actual fights in school. And at no point in time was the thought of a gun or a knife ever in the equation of, oh man, I can't get in a fight because this guy might stab me and kill me.
You're intending the natural consequences, their death. That's murder. Now, importantly, it's murder unless it can be justified as self-defense. Self-defense is a legal defense to this conduct. If you did this, if you intentionally stabbed someone in the heart with a knife, but you can meet the conditions of the self-defense justification, then this is not a crime. It's not always lawful to kill people. Sorry, it's not always unlawful to kill people. If they're killed in lawful self-defense, the killing of another person is simply not a crime. Or alternatively, you commit murder if you intend to cause serious bodily injury and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death.
Right here. Carmelo Anthony sat in an obvious reserved area. Carmelo Anthony refused to leave. Carmelo Anthony escalated confrontation and threatened physical harm. Carmelo Anthony murdered. If these are and these are what I've seen, and based on what that post was that Tim posted, this seems to be pretty much the facts that we have right now. And if those are the facts, I don't know, man. Doesn't look too good.
Of an individual.
It happened in the last 5 years. I was out of town, G&G business. We were invited to there was like a business discussion, but it was casual. Ended up at someone's house. There was alcohol involved. Of course, I don't drink alcohol. It was not a good environment. I was very skeptical the moment I walked in the door, and things started to go off the tracks pretty quickly with the environment and the clientele that were starting to show up. There was one guy in particular that was very aggressive because he was very drunk, and at the best interest of me and the people that were with me, I pulled everybody out of the situation and I said, we are leaving. This is not a good environment. We walk away. Guess what? That's how you handle it right there. That's how you handle it. You walk away from that situation into Tim's situation. Tim is talking about a completely different scenario than what is happening right here. What has happened in this situation with Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony is completely different than what Tim is talking about. Tim is an idiot. So then we kind of go back to this post right here where he's basically, he got ratioed big time. Guess who quote tweeted him? His buddy is even calling him out. Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec is even calling him out. There is nothing in these reports that supports the use of lethal force in self-defense. I got touched is not grounds for stabbing an unarmed person in the heart. 1000%. This has got to be one of the worst takes I have seen. And I know Tim likes to troll a lot. He's definitely big on the trolling aspect of things. He loves to troll. This is bad. And Jack is a big fan of Tim's. They're good friends. He appears on Timcast all the time. And I think this is going to backfire gloriously on Tim. Big time. So